Hey guys, welcome back for another adventure. I hope you guys stick around and watch the whole video because you're going to learn some neat things today. I get a lot of questions about how I epoxy my bowls. Most guys, most wood turners will use shellac or beeswax and mineral oil or tung oil. The problem with those finishes, and they've been used for hundreds, if not thousands of years, is that they require a lot of maintenance. And I have found that my customers don't buy wooden bowls because of the maintenance. They don't want to mess with it. Even cutting boards, we build cutting boards, we oil them up real good. Most people will never oil them. They'll just use them till they fall apart and throw them out. So I came up with a better idea, and that's to coat them in a food grade epoxy. Um, you can look online. Most every epoxy, honestly, is food grade once it cures. Remember, epoxy is nothing more than plastic, and we use plastic utensils everywhere. The problem is with a bowl, how do you pour it? How do you get epoxy down on the inside and along on the outside? You pour it this way, and I tried all different ways. I tried doing it like this, pouring the outside, then sanding the rim and trying to pour, and then you get runs down the outside. Doesn't work. So I came up with a method that works for me. It's different from everything you've seen. It goes against all the advice that's out there. There's so much bad advice on the internet about how to pour epoxy. It seems like in so many things, you get one guy who makes a video and it's popular. Everybody watches it. So other YouTubers see it. They pick up the same techniques. They make a video about it. And all of a sudden, there's hundreds and hundreds of videos showing how to do it wrong. You know, if you go back and watch my video on busting the YouTube epoxy table myths, I show you a much better way to pour tabletops. It it doesn't make sense the way these guys do it with the melamine and the tape and the silicone caulk. It doesn't work. You get leaks. You see it all the time. They lose their epoxy because it's leaking. There's a better way. So go check out that video after you finish this one and learn how to do it so you don't have those problems. But today we're going to do bowls. And I'm going to show you my technique of how I do bowls, and I think you'll enjoy it. So stick around. You need to watch through the whole video, and you'll pick up a lot of good techniques, and then you try it. I can't show you everything. A little bit of it is just skill of doing it. I fought this and fought it and fought it and figured out a way, but there's still a little bit of eyesight to it. And so you follow the techniques and you see how it works. The other thing I see people do is they try to put these things on something that rotates, thinking that if they're rotating it, the epoxy will dry smoother. I don't know if that works or not. I've never tried it. I can't afford to make or buy 30 or 40 of those because I do a lot of bowls all at one time. I'm not doing just one piece. So this is my method. Stick around till the end. I hope you enjoy it. Remember, hit that like for me, subscribe for me. I really appreciate it as I try to grow this channel and bring you better projects. So before I go mix the epoxy, I want to show you my setup. I have 62 bowls set up, and I want to show you how I do it. I cut PVC pipe. Now this is 4-inch thin wall for the bigger bowls. You can see how that bowl's done, and it fits right over that pipe. We get to the smaller bowls like this one, and I'm using 2-inch PVC pipe. Now, the nice thing about using PVC pipe is the epoxy does not stick to plastic. Yes, it sticks to a point, but you can just, I take a hammer if I need to and smack it once or twice and they pop right off. So here's our pour today. We get all the way down here to the end. Like I said, there's 62 of these suckers. Now, most of them have already got first coat of epoxy on them. You can see it on these. And I scratched them up with some 220 sandpaper. When you do your seal coat, you're never going to get a consistent finish. It's going to be blotchy because in some areas the epoxy is going to soak in more than others. So don't worry about that. You have to do a seal coat. Now, I've been told by manufacturers that I can use a polyacrylic or shellac as a seal coat. I just go ahead and use epoxy. I think it works better. But try it. It might work good for you. Now these little trays I made, and I coated these things in mineral oil. And people didn't like them. They liked the shiny surface of the epoxy. So I'm going to put epoxy on these things. Now, you'll get people online that'll tell you you can't put epoxy over oil. Bull. I've done it. I've had no problems. No, the epoxy doesn't separate. It works for me. I don't know. So we're going to do it, and we'll look at them at the end. I have bowls that I did 6 months ago. I've actually sold them now that were done over oil stain and mineral oil and had no problems. But most of this stuff has at least one coat of epoxy on it. Some of them have two, like this one. I did 2 coats because I wanted that burl to be sealed good, and knew it would need at least 3 coats. So pick up some PVC pipe, cut it 3-4 inches long to hold them up. You want to be up off your work surface. You want that epoxy to be able to drip down. Okay, let's go mix epoxy. So we are using B-resin epoxy. Hope you can see that. I like this stuff. I have tried the stock standard that you see all over YouTube of Total Boat, and I don't like it. It's really expensive. It gives me tons of bubbles. I have to be torching and messing with it. I bought some, I tried it, never again. I don't like it. This stuff, I don't get the bubbles. It works really, really well. And it's a 2-part, 1-to-1. So we're going to mix up a cup. I get about 30 minutes or so of working time. So we're going to mix, I don't know, about 20 ounces, I guess, here. So we'll do 10 of this. I think we'll do 12.
which means we need to go to 24. And that pretty much kills off these 2 bottles. No worries, I got more. I keep this stuff in stock because I use a lot of it. And no, I am not sponsored by this company. Okay, I do not use mechanical mixers unless I'm doing really huge pours. Just a stir stick. Now, this stuff, I don't know if you can see it. It turns cloudy when you first start mixing. And you know you've got it mixed well when it clears back up. The one trick, make sure you scrape the sides down all the way around. I don't know if you can see it starting to clear up. Now, if you notice, I'm mixing, I'm pulling up from the bottom down and pushing down from the top and turning the container as I mix. Okay, there it is. Let's put some gloves on and let's run over and start putting this stuff on the bowls. Goes pretty quick, but it is messy. So definitely wear rubber gloves. I'm not a big rubber glove person, but this is one operation that I almost always wear rubber gloves. The one thing I forgot to tell you guys is how I apply the epoxy. I paint it on with a disposable paintbrush. I buy like a dozen of them for $15 at Home Depot. They're about 2 inches wide. You know, those super cheap disposable brushes. The one trick I've learned is when you take them out of their little package, take your fingers and pull on the bristles to try to get all the loose bristles off. You can see the brush there. And we're just going to paint the epoxy on these things. This is the part that you really have to learn. It's not like paint. You put it on much thicker. Remember, epoxy is designed to be thick and to run, and you want it to do that. So you're slathering it on pretty good, and like I said, it's messy. Make sure you cover every spot. Put more on than you think. Let it run and drip off. I typically do the outsides first, and then I'll set them on the pipes, and I'll do the inside. And it's kind of a pain, especially right now. You know, it's pretty cold in the shop. It's about mid-60s the day I did this, and that epoxy was thick. In the summertime, when it's up in the mid-90s, the epoxy's easier to work with because it's thinner. I don't notice the temperature has much to do with how the epoxy turns out. I have noticed that when it's colder, it takes longer for this epoxy to set up. This batch, it took about a day and a half to get the epoxy to the point that I could knock it off the pipes. In the summertime, about 8 hours. And this stuff, you can start working with it. Now, it still takes a good week for the epoxy to really set up hard. So don't go stacking these things up. Be careful with them. You're better to err on the point of leaving them sit longer than you need to. You don't want them to stick together. I've had that problem and had a issue breaking them apart, and then you've got rings and spots, and you have to sand and redo. These bowls that we're starting with, these are maple that has mineral oil on them, and I've sanded them a little bit and wiped them down with some alcohol. This is the first coat on these, and you won't see these at the end. They're going to need 2 or 3 coats. I've found most bowls I get by with 2 coats. Sometimes I'll have spots where the epoxy has just soaked in too much, and I'll have to put 3. And every once in a while, I'll have a bowl that needs 4 coats. Don't get in a hurry. You can always sand this stuff down with 220 grit sandpaper between coats, scuff it up, and put another coat on until you get it the way you like it. When you're starting out, you're either going to put on not enough epoxy or too much epoxy. If you put too much on, no big deal. You're just going to have a big puddle that's run off of them. If you don't put enough, you're not going to get full coverage, and you're going to have to work on it again. And that's the eye. That's the experience. You have to learn that stuff. I can't really teach you how to do it. I can show you the technique, but I can't show you how much I'm putting on. It's just impossible to capture on camera. But just follow the steps, try it out, do 2 or 3 or 4 your first batch and see how it turns out, and you'll figure it out. It won't take too long. So now we're jumping into high speed mode. I want you guys to see me doing multiple bowls, but I know it gets boring sitting here watching me at normal speed do these. So we're just going to zip through a bunch of them here and have some fun. I'm not going to show you all of them. I've cut this down quite a bit. But make sure that you cover every square inch. And then after they sit for a little while, say 10, 15 minutes, go back and check them. You'll find that epoxy will run down into the bottom of the bowl, and you may need to pull some of that epoxy back up on the sides and let it run down a second time to get good coverage. Just keep an eye on them. With these, I found it was so cold in the shop that day that a couple hours after I did them, I had some bubbles show up in the bottoms of the bowls. And I just grabbed my torch and torched them real quick. It wasn't a lot, but because the epoxy is so thick, with it being as cold as it is, those bubbles couldn't escape like they do in the summertime when the epoxy is a lot thinner and warmer. So, little torch work, and they're good to go. We didn't have any bubbles in any of them. You'll see that at the end. And here are the bowls with the epoxy completed but still wet. They're looking pretty good. So next step is letting this epoxy set up, and then we'll be back to take them off those pipe bases. And I'll show you how to do that in just a minute. Here we go. So I thought I'd show you guys how they come out. You can see this is stuck. So you just put them on the edge of the bench, smack them with a hammer a little bit, and they come off. We'll clean that bottom up. And I typically just use a little polyurethane and seal the bottoms. We got a beautiful bowl. Now that we've got the risers, the pipes off the bottom, you can see there's some marks and there's some drips, and we need to sand that off. So I use a 3-inch disc on my drill press. This is 120 grit sandpaper. There's what it looks like when we're done. Here you go, guys. Bowls all finished. And you can see what they look like. So that's how you epoxy bowls. That's how I do it. I hope you enjoyed this little adventure. Hope you learned something. Now go epoxy some bowls. You can do it. And have fun. Remember, it takes some trial and error to figure it all out. If you have any questions, leave a comment and I'll get back with you and try to help. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please do me a favor, hit that like button, and please subscribe for more great content like this. You never know what we're going to do next. I think next week I'm going to show you a new toy that I bought. And that should be fun. And new adventure. So have a great week, and we'll see you soon. Bye.